Is Dalton Knecht having the best season ever for a Tennessee men's basketball player? I believe yes. What say you, Jimmy Hyams, that's seen some more basketball than I have in my day?
No, I got to go back to Bernard King. I mean, Bernard King one season averaged over 26 points and over 12 rebounds. He is the best player that Tennessee's ever had, in my opinion. I would put Knecht very high on that list. The other one I would compare it to, and is Tony White. Tony White averaged 24.5 points per game his senior year. Now, the reason I would probably yield to Knecht on that is that Tony White's team wasn't nearly as good as this Tennessee team. I don't think the SEC overall was as good then as it is right now. They may have 8 or 9 teams in the NCAA tournament. They may not have a lot of great teams, but they got a lot of really good teams in the SEC. So the level of competition, the fact this team is better, I would say Knecht probably the second best season, with Tony White knocking on the door and Bernard King having the best ever.
Jimmy, may I offer this? I'm going to argue Knecht with the better season, not necessarily the better career, because I think some people forget that Bernard King was going to be one of the all-time greats before the injury. But he had Ernie Grunfeld, who won co-SEC Player of the Year the same year. I'm not saying that Knecht doesn't have anything, but when it comes to scoring and Tennessee truly has to score, he's pretty much the guy. That's the reason I would take this season. Again, I'm going before my time, Jimmy. I'm the first to admit it. I was like 6 years old at the time. But that's why I would go with Knecht over the fact that he didn't have an elite running mate like Ernie Grunfeld. You?
Yeah, I can see that point. And Knecht, he absolutely took over the Auburn game in the last 12 minutes. He outscored Auburn, what was it, 25-21 or something like that. When Auburn had an 8-point lead at that particular time. Phenomenal game for him. But the numbers still, to me, support King. And King did have a really good supporting cast. He not only had Ernie Grunfeld, they had another guy that could average 15 points a game named Mike Jackson. Now, that team also scored a lot of points. I think they might have scored more points per game than this Tennessee team might have. I'd have to double check that. And that was in an era where they didn't even have a shot clock. But, Guy, it's so hard for me to ignore what King did against elite competition. I remember the game up in Kentucky when Tennessee lost. It was Bernard King's freshman year. And somebody flicked a lit cigarette into his hair.
Oh.
And he was livid. And he said, I will never lose to Kentucky again. And he didn't. Tennessee won the next 5 games against Kentucky. And those were great Kentucky teams. But I just think Bernard King's the best ever. He's the best NBA
player. Jimmy and Dave, I want to get you guys, both of y'all's thoughts on this. And I agree, Jimmy, I was looking at Bernard King's numbers and I'm just blown away. And I know Ernie had a decent NBA career, like a 7 or 8 year NBA career. And also I think Reggie Johnson was on that team who played in the NBA during that time. But I mean, when you look at the NBA production, it was clear that Bernard King carried. Yeah, it was very clear that Bernard King carried them. But I want to throw another guy out at you guys, because this guy did help lead Tennessee to an SEC regular season title his junior year while averaging over 21 points. And I'm talking about Dale Ellis in 81-82. He's actually, Dale Ellis, he averaged more points that year than Dalton is averaging this year, and he averaged more rebounds. Can't we make a case for Dale Ellis too in 81-82?
I'll tell you what, Jimmy.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. I'm sorry. My battery's going low. That's why my head's bobbing around. Yes, you can.
Jimmy has I want the answer on that question. His appearance brought to you by our good friends at Ray Varner Ford, but I want to answer that question, the comparison of Dale Ellis.
2023 F-150 4x4 Super Cab, $44,992. A 2023 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,952. 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Crew XLT, $54,900. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
All right, Jim. So comparing the Dale Ellis as he's working through his technical difficulties, those are always fun. But comparing Dale Ellis to the Dalton Knecht year, Jimmy, how would you compare the two?
Dale Ellis was a great basketball player. He was the guy that he was 6'7" and he played inside. And Don DeVoe wouldn't let him take a shot, I don't think, outside of 12 feet. And it was amazing what he was able to do. He could post up. He had a very quick release, and he was very difficult for opposing centers to guard. And when he stepped out, and his step out was 12 to 15 feet. If you came out to guard him, he'd go around you. If you didn't come out to guard you, he'd hit that shot. He was also a great defensive player. Dale Ellis is one of the 5 or 6 best players to ever play at Tennessee. And yes, you can make a very strong argument. And he also went on to have a great NBA career. I would say King and Ellis had the 2 best NBA careers of any former Tennessee players. Allen, great career. But I think Dale Ellis was a great player. His last 2 years at Tennessee was phenomenal. And he was a great all-around player. It was interesting that DeVoe wouldn't let him outside because he was such a good post player. But Ellis worked a lot in practice on shooting a 3 because he knew to the NBA he couldn't center at 6'7", and became. I think at one point he made more 3-pointers than other player. That sense has been broken, but he was a great player.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. That's great insight, Jimmy, because I looked at Dale, and college basketball didn't have. I don't think they had the 3-point line until later in the 80s. So when Dale Ellis was there, they didn't have it. So I didn't know that he was as much of a post-up player. I only saw his NBA stats, and I mean, we're talking about an incredible 3-point shooter. A couple other names I just wanted to point out. A guy on our show, Ron Slay, he did average over 20 points his senior year, even though Tennessee didn't make the NCAA tournament that year. And obviously Allen Houston. I think Dalton Knecht is definitely on that realm of players.
Now, the reason that I eliminate a lot of the other players is because I didn't think they were 3-level players. Dalton Knecht as a scorer can score from mid-range, can take it to the hoop, and score from 3-point line, obviously. To me, all of the other guys were better in one regard or the other. Allen Houston, Chris Lofton, 3-point guys, other guys, perimeter guys. I don't know that with Knecht. Maybe with Bernard King, there's a comparison, but with Knecht, I don't know if there's another guy that's been as good scoring at all 3 levels, Caleb.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're right about the versatility, but I think we sometimes overvalue versatility as opposed to doing one thing great a lot of times. I mean, I think there's a few things great. Like, LeBron is a more versatile player than Michael Jordan. He is. But Michael Jordan was so much of a better scorer that it elevates him as a player over LeBron in a lot of ways. And so I think while Dalton Knecht his versatility counts, I think being able to do certain things great should also carry value. And again, I got to point this out. It's still true to me that Dalton Knecht has not been Tennessee basketball's most important player this year. This team has gone as Jonas Aidoo has gone. And if Jonas Aidoo has not scored double figures, Dalton Knecht hasn't been able to lift them to victory.